Good evening and good morning to everyone who is here with us. Welcome to the fourth event of Halka Sanat Projesi and Artship Initiative San Francisco's Spring Season 2021. For the last 10 years, our two initiatives, aside from their individual programming, have been producing numerous exhibitions and storytelling performances with music and movement, both in Istanbul and in San Francisco. Whenever we are sharing our performance in a gallery space, we also present an exhibition as a parallel event to that performance, so that our audience can visit the exhibition before or after the performance. This year, we found ourselves under very different circumstances. But to honor this tradition, before we open the performance, we will give you a brief account on two exhibitions, one coming from the near past and the other which will take place in near future. Firstly, Craig Cross from San Francisco will tell us about his exhibition, Earthbounds. Craig?
For 8 years, I lived at the foot of Mount Tamalpais, just north of the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, and would regularly go hiking on the mountain. And I felt a distinct feeling of grief and sadness when I would walk on the mountain. And one day I asked a neighbor who is a historian of the local area about this feeling that I had. And he said, "You have a good reason to feel this grief because the mountain has good reason to feel this way." In 1906, when San Francisco was destroyed by an earthquake, the whole side, the west side of the mountain for many miles was completely clear cut. And this old growth redwood forest has never recovered. You can see standing closer to the Golden Gate Bridge now, looking across the headlands to the top of the mountain. And this is what it looks like today. All of the topsoil washed off and the forest has not grown back, and it's been over 100 years. When the topsoil sloughed down the mountain, it filled in the Bolinas Bay, which used to be a sheltering harbor for migrating whales, and it welcomed the seafaring ships, and now it's filled with mud. Moreover, the top of the mountain was cut down, and a military base, an Air Force base, was built on the top of the mountain, and that base was never used. And many very long tunnels were drilled into the mountain to support the military operations there. And some bases are even 100 years old in different places on the mountain. They built huge cannons and placed them there in batteries. And these batteries are now ruins. They were never used. They even drilled into the mountain to build silos for Nike missiles. And they never asked the mountain if this was okay to do any of these things. And I was sure that this is why I felt the mountain's grief. And I felt that as someone who lived on the mountain, I needed to make a physical apology to the place. And I felt that maybe the best way to do this was to paint a series of very heavy stones and hand place them on the mountain. And so I looked for inspiration from local native tribes. And in Central California on the coast is a Chumash cave. And that's where I began stylistically. And so I found some stones that I picked intuitively and began to paint. And this was the first one that I did, taking the inspiration from Chumash Cave. But as I worked on it, I found that the stone had a story to speak. And as I listened to the stone, I let the lines of the paint follow the stone story and began to run with that. And so this is the second stone, painted very slowly, just waiting to hear what the stone wanted to say to me. All of the paint was handmade with natural mineral pigments and casein cheese, which is it's cheese curd. I knew it would last a while, but eventually it would wash away and become part of the dust of the mountain. This stone, it showed me how it once was molten magma, liquid, and was liquid for thousands of years, if not millions of years. And so I decided to try to tell that story on this piece of basalt. And this stone, the last one I painted, I waited for a long time to feel what this stone wanted to say until I noticed hundreds of tiny, tiny little barnacles the size of a head of a pin. And so by circling those little barnacles, I wanted to point out that this stone once rolled in the sea. And I shared them with Artship, and they invited me to join Dennis Ledbetter, who found stones on his morning walks on the beach. He's a photographer, but he had an amazing stone collection. And we exhibited them together at the Bonifant Gallery in San Francisco. This woman liked this stone so much that she kissed it, and her lipstick became part of the painting on the stone. And then it was time to climb the mountain and put them in place. This one behind where we lived is the stone I placed first. The second stone I placed on the absolute other side of the mountain. This one I felt needed to go on the top of the mountain with the ruins of the Air Force Base. And then to finish the apology, the last stone I found a little wooded area near the top, and that seemed like the right place for it to be.
Now we are going to Istanbul for Burak Ayaz's upcoming exhibition, Aroma Sketches.
So some time ago, we had this idea to combine a story with the aromas. And the plan was to give some aromatic liquids inside these small glasses and allowing the audience to drink it at some parts of the story. But the pandemic has other ideas, so the glasses remained empty. But I wanted to carry the aromas to this field. And one day I was in the kitchen of the Artship incubating place and I was cooking a pumpkin soup. So I put some cinnamon sticks inside, and after I cooked the soup, I discarded the cinnamon stick and I realized that it was open. So I can put something inside in it. So I put these red peppercorns with the needles and allow it to dry. And somehow it looked like it growed inside from them. And I continue to do this kind of things. And one day I was playing with a garlic and I discovered this witchy kind of head-looking thing on the bottom of the garlic. And interestingly, in many cultures, the garlic is believed that it protects from the evil spirits. Even in today's vampire fictions, it's garlic believed that it protects from them. And really, I sensed the connection between these beliefs and the visuality of the aromatic ingredients, and same for the Syrian root, this thing. In the Middle East, it's believed that it protects from the evil spirits. And with that, the title of the work came, The Aroma Sketches. And for example, this is a purple carrot slice. It was looking like an ice, so I combined it with the dried pear peels to make it obvious. And I realized when these things are drying, they're making interesting, the spiral kind of things, almost like calligraphic gestures. So I continue to dry things, and these are dried pepper stripes. So they were looking like the branches that birds used to make a nest. So I followed the same pattern with them. And this is a tomato. I left a little bit of tomato peel on its vine and allowed it to dry upside down, and it looked like a flower. And this is the leaves. It was just a slice of the leaves, and if you cut the leaf, you can see that it has many circles inside. So I just pulled the circles to the top, and it looked like a tower, the aroma signaling. And one day I found this stone outside, and I used to use it to honor the egg. And these are also from the garlic, the hairs of the garlic. And these are bay leaf branches. And this is a dried pepper. I combined it with the lavender. I call it the aroma seeking. And then I started to use the other kind of ingredients, for example, the mushroom. This is a shiitake mushroom. And I combined it with some poppy seeds, and it's a black haritaki inside. And this is a fragment of an Ottoman vessel. It's brass. And interestingly, since they're really organic, it doesn't matter how much I play with them. In the end, they were shaping themselves. For example, this one was like that, and it became like that. And now the sprouts dried, and it looks completely different. They're really ephemeral sculptures, just like the sense of smell. And this one was a slice of pumpkin in the top part, and this is the pit of the pumpkin. So I carefully looked through that, what can be in between them. And I tried to enlarge it, and I then combined it with this cinnamon stick, and this is the stalk of the persimmon fruit. And sometimes it was just enough to put one aromatic thing, and it was building a bridge between two different objects. Like on this one. So this is a lemon seed, and this is a broccoli, really small broccoli which I tried. Growing is labor of the time. And sometimes they were so beautiful that I didn't want to cut them or make them smaller. It was just enough to give them a monumental, and the attention is there. And sometimes they were coming with their stories, and this is a good example for them. So this is a dried eggplant, and this is a dried kumquat, and these are dried okras. In the Anatolia, they dry many vegetables and some fruits like that. They put them on the rope and they hang them. So this one, some called him a wizard, and for some he was just a clown. And he was seeking things to get the answers. And when he finds something that attracts him, he would sit next by to it and ask some questions. And sometimes people would wonder and watch, but all they witnessed was the silence and the intense looking of the man. And one day, he met with his own curiosity. And it was an eternal connection from the moment. They kept asking questions to each other. And after years of this connection, they decided to leave a monumental about this. And first thing that came to their mind was a sphere, and they built it. But they kept fixing it mutually, and in the end, all they left was this cube. And now we install an exhibition in the Artship incubation place. And this is a family picture. I keep them in the kitchen. That's where they're born. But sometimes I send them to education towards the sun. And this is a photograph from there. They are getting ready to join the family after the sun educates them.
And Slobodan, would you like to say some ideas, share with us before we...
Yeah, just a few words.
Mm-hmm.
First, it is a complete miracle that we are all together in this way. And as we have never done it before, the uncertainty of it, it's probably a part of it, like sort of early photographs which are out of focus or something. So I just want to say that in spite of all what we are experiencing at this moment, it is so great to be together, and a kind of extraordinary synchronicity, then we can do that. And now we start with the performance. And the first piece, I will be just announcing the titles to share what kind of intention is, or poetic hint of it is. And this one, first one is called Cherishing the Globe as the Birds See. Welcome, Ancient Turtle Islands Greeting Song.
I'm going to share a healing song from the natives of the Northwest Coast. This song was taught to me by Sweet Stemini, my teacher, and he's a Nootka storyteller. While I'll be singing, I will also beat the drum. At the end of the song, I will have a gesture from my heart to creation and back to my heart. Now I'm going to share the song. Oh, oh, eh, 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 oh, oh, eh, 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 oh,
Carpet as story.
In an age where most of the population was living in the countryside. Mehmet was born in a city. He was one of the few whose family had lived in the city for many generations. Since they were an urban family, they had access to the books, and he grew up reading stories about village and nature. But he also listened to them when his family hosted famous storytellers at their home. But he was born into the built environment of Istanbul, the biggest city in the world back then, and since then has been amazed by it. Like all the children, he loved the stories, but he has always been fascinated by what was around him. He started drawing the houses, the people, the mosques, the mansions, whatever he sees, whatever is around him. And he never thought of drawing what's in the stories because he thought they belonged to another realm. When he was a teen, he became an apprentice at the Nakkashhane, the famous painting workshop of the Ottoman palace. He was quickly noticed by the master with his exquisite details in body parts and architectural elements. But what the master also noticed was his lack of elaboration in natural elements, plants or animals alike. So he sent him outside to observe the nature. What that particularly entailed was a mystery for Mehmet. He didn't know for how long he should observe and what exactly. He thought there was no nature in the city. It belonged to the countryside or to the stories. Thinking what to do, he sat by the tree just outside the workshop and tried to draw it. Then he realized there were two birds on that tree. The other day, he went back to the workshop. He was disappointed that he had been sent outside the day before. He said to his master that there was no nature outside, but just a single tree. And this time too, the master sent him outside once again. But this time, he told him to simply count the branches of the tree. Disillusioned, he left the workshop and went out again, and did exactly the same. Sat by the tree, tried to draw it, and this time he counted the branches, not paying attention to the birds, which were perching on the same branches again. As the sun moved and the colors changed, and after a while, he directed his attention towards the birds. He observed the tree again, but he realized there was something odd. And what he realized was there were two birds on the same branches, but they were not the same birds. So he cheered up and got excited and directed his attention completely towards the bird. He go back and observe the tree next day, and the day after, and the day after. Not sent outside by his master, but he was voluntarily observing the tree and changing bird patterns. Different colored birds in different positions occupied the tree. They were sleeping or having fun by jumping from one branch to the other. As the seasons changed, number and species of the birds started to change also. In the summer, all the branches of the tree were full of birds in various colors. But as the summer sun left the sky, the birds also left the tree. Then Mehmet remembered something. There were birds that migrated in the winter as he read or listened from the stories. He realized that the stories might not belong to another realm. Then Mehmet decided that it was his time to paint the nature. He was ready. So he went back to the workshop.
Unexpected history.
I used to live in an apartment where there is a garden. And sometimes seagulls get stuck in the garden. Through bushes and with trees. This happened a few times. And I had to make a research. How can I rescue these seagulls? Because they call to their friends. They can't rise and take off. So someone told me, if you throw a piece of fabric in place on a seagull or a bird, they become still. They think they are asleep. So, one day, I saw the seagull in the room where the garden was, stuck, can't take off, calling, calling, calling. And I was ready for the mission. I had my fabric, but it was quite difficult to chase the seagull. So I had to be very, very supple. And finally, I was there. I picked up the seagull gently. I could feel the heartbeat, but it was so still, so perhaps feeling it's sleeping. So we went out together, a seagull, big bird wrapped around in my arms, walked in the middle of the city, and I found a right spot. Seagull was free, I was happy. But I lost a company for a moment. One day, something very strange happened. Garden door was open. Seagull was there. Very strangely, Seagull walked into the house. walked through the hallway. I was following, walked into my bedroom, and returned, walked all the way back again to where the garden was, and find a spot under the staircase. And didn't come out. Door was open. This 1.5 meter winged seagull under the staircase, in the house, in the city. So I went back to sleep. I had to sleep. It was night. Morning. I remember there was a seagull in the house. Walked quietly. Everything was under control. Nothing was strange. Seagull was still there. I mean, how long are you gonna stay here? So I opened the door, and seagull, almost like yawning, and came out from that spot. But now, the moment, it could take off easily, so started opening its 1.5 meter wing. And it's gone. Unexpected company, my company gone. This was real, not a story.
Wood carved with wings.
Karatu was 15 years old. He was milking every day. He was doing his master's work. But he thinks that every day nothing changes. He started living since he was 11 with his master because he got that illness that some people got. His mother couldn't heal him, so she called come. And he came and he healed him for a while. But he said he should start living with me and he should learn to heal himself. So unwillingly, his mother gave him to that camp. And Karatu done what his master said to him every day, every time. Mostly he was doing daily things, daily job, cooking, milking, bringing water, boiling water, cleaning. But some days, or sometimes, come teach him how to tell a legend, how to sing, how to play an instrument, or sometimes how to make an instrument. So he was thinking while he's still doing milking job, maybe there will be another apprentice, but he thinks that he's grown enough, mature enough, and he was unwillingly doing that daily jobs and dreaming that becoming a great Khan. So he got back to hut, made out bark, and said to his master, so I'm done milking. And he said nothing, and he continued what he's doing. Karatu looked to him, so he was carving something. So he never saw that his master carving something. He continued cooking to getting first meal of the day. And one eye on his job and one eye on his master, he looked how he's carving, how he's doing his job, and tried to catch something. And his master understood that he's being watched. So he said, let's begin to tell the legend that I teach you before. And Karatu started to tell it. Dağların üstünde atamın evi, Balakar deresi. Bin taşlı örülmüş duvarı, kırmızı taşlı avlusu. 27 başlı ordusu, yelle yollar buyruğu, odla alır. His master said, stop, enough. And the meal was ready. So they ate their breakfast. And after the breakfast, he said to his apprentice, so I think you are mature enough. I think you get enough experience. So I give you a quest. So you have to travel a little bit further than every day you go to the river bank. So you have to go to the northern upper side of the river bank. And you will see a small lake next to the river bank, filled with the river water. And take this silver cup and get the water from there. But don't spill the water, because we will use it in a ritual. And its ritual starts now. So you have to be careful from now until the end of the ritual. So Karatu was very excited. So he took the silver cup, but he felt that now is the time, because he feels that nature and his master gave him that quest. So he went that north upper bank of the river, and it took a while, few hours. And on the way, he thought that it should be spring, but it didn't came already. Last year, or every year, he remembered, the trees were bloomed already, and the grass will be all around, but it's still winter. And in some places, there's a snow already. And when he made the place, he took the water very carefully, and slowly he went back to their hut. He entered the hut, and his master said, you understood. So you know, right? Spring is late. And the apprentice said, yes, master, but why? So I don't know, but I'm trying to call the immigrant birds. So maybe they will remember that they bring the spring back to us. And because I want they remember, I carved these birds made out of wood. So maybe they will call the immigrant birds back to us. So I put these birds around our hut. So play your instrument you made year before, and I'll end our ritual, and maybe they will hear us. The master put the carved wooden birds around his hut and looked far, far to the south, and he felt that the immigrant birds are coming. And he thought, the spring is late, it's okay, it will come. And his apprentice, he will grow and he will be a very, very strong cow. And he started to say his song because he remembered that his apprentice told to him when he's playing. He remembered that he wrote this song when he was apprentice. Döndürdüm yüzünü, kanatlarını bekliyorsun. Kuşlar tüylerini paylaşsın. Tahtalı kuşlar uçsun.
Bird and the golden cage.
There was a merchant in Persia. He used to do a lot of spice trading with India. Every year he used to go to India and get some gift from Persia to these Indian merchants whom he used to trade with. These Indian merchants also used to give him some gift whenever he used to finish his journey. So this time, there's an Indian merchant who gifted a beautiful green parrot with a dark red beak and a natural black ribbon stripe in the neck to this Persian merchant. Persian merchant was very happy, and he realized that this beautiful bird can sing and speak to him. And he felt it so happy. When he came back home, he started talking to the bird and singing with him. With due course of time, he realized that this bird is amazing, but the cage of the bird is not worth of. As the merchant was rich enough to get him a golden cage, he decided to get a gold cage and a golden bowl where this beautiful parrot can eat. They used to sing together every evening. They used to talk and sing and enjoy their time together. They became friends. Again, this time of year comes when the merchant has to go to India for the trading. And he asked his wife, "Do you need something from India?" And the wife said very excitedly, "Yes, I need a silk sari." And then he went to his kid. "Kid, do you need something from India?" He said, "Yes, I need a wooden cart for kids to play with." And then he said, "Okay." While the merchant was going out, Parrot spoke to the merchant, "Have a safe journey, master." And then he realized he didn't ask anything from the bird. So he went up to the bird and asked, "My friend, do you need anything from India?" He said, "I don't need anything, especially, but rather I would like you to deliver a message to the green parrots, those who looks like me. Tell them that I'm alive and I'm well." So merchant was very happy to get this message, and then he promised him that he will deliver the message. He went to India and then he did all his trading. He finished his trading and he bought a silk sari for his wife and a wooden cart for his kid. And he was very tired after a hectic day. He was sitting in a garden. While he was sitting in a garden, he realized that a bunch of birds, the green parrots, are sitting next to him. And immediately he remembered, oh, I have to deliver the message of my friend. So he went up to the birds and then he told them, I have a beautiful green parrot who exactly look like you. He lives with me in Persia and he is well and alive. So out of the group of these green parrot, one bird got really excited. Oh, really? How is he? And this bird all of a sudden flew and then sat on the shoulder of this merchant. Merchant was very happy and then he started talking to her. And then she asked, what else? Tell me, how is he? How he is doing? How's everything with him? Very excitedly. And the merchant told him he lives in a golden cage and he eat food in a golden bowl. The moment this bird heard this from the merchant, she fell on the ground. Merchant was really upset and then he tried to shake the bird. He's calling the bird that please talk to me, what happened? And then he was very upset. He didn't know what happened. He was trying his level best so that the bird can come alive again, but he didn't get any of the sign on any moment in the bird. He decided to leave and then go back to the Persia. And then he comes back. He saw his wife and then first question his wife asked, where's my silk sari? And then he gives silk sari to the wife and this beautiful wooden cart to the kid. And then he saw the bird and the bird greet him. Did you deliver my message to the birds? He said, yes, I deliver your message, but with very sorrow heart, the merchant said, I was telling the message to one of your friend and she was sitting on my shoulder. But while I told her that you live in a golden cage and you're eating in a golden bowl, she fell on the ground and she was still. I tried my level best to wake her up. She didn't turn up. The moment the same thing heard by this parrot in the golden cage, he also fell on the floor. Merchant was very upset. He don't know what's going on. He was trying to shake the cage. He was trying to call him by his name. And then he decided to open the door of the cage. And then he put this beautiful parrot in his hand, crying and saying, what happened to you? Bird stand still for 2 minutes. And then after 2 minutes, the bird flew away and sat on a wall next to the merchant. Merchant was very happy. And at the same time, he was surprised. And he asked the bird, what happened? The same thing happened when I told the bird in India that you live in golden cage. She fell on the ground. And when I'm telling you that she fell on the ground and you live in a golden cage, you also fell down. What is going on? Can you please explain me? So the bird said, the bird you met in India is my mother. She taught me the way how to get out of the golden cage. But merchant was still surprised. Merchant asked, I was always thinking that you're happy in this golden cage, eating in this golden bowl. But I never know that you are not happy. While this bird started flying towards east to meet his mother, while he was flying, he said, open sky is anytime better than a golden cage.
Song for the familiar eagle.
Ipex and Slobodan asked me to tell you something about my background as the ethnomusicologist and a singer. Nearly 30 years ago and before that, during our studies, we, at the beginning of the 90s, we formed a female vocal ensemble named MOBA in Belgrade with the aim to perform rural traditional songs of our people. And we preferred the old layer songs, old tradition. We tended to perform them in the way the most close to original performances. So to do it as much close as much to the way that village singers used to sing them. Now I'm going to sing a song that comes from the Danube Gorge, and according to its musical features, it might have the origin before the Roman time. Sometimes when I sing, I need to clear my throat, just the way village women do. Vai mi pevai, socole, ai socole, vai mi pevai, socole, ai socole, to si mi sino, Eva, ai peva, sto si mi sino, Eva, ai peva.
Memory returns.
Yakashi. Kari. Kari. Ali. Shevu. Shevu. Kari, Ali, Yakashi. They laugh together. They sit together. They jump together, hands in hands, and they sleep together. Kirna. And Cengeza.
Ayla's story.
Aylas and Ali's bus arrived to Istanbul bus terminal early in the afternoon. All that day and night they were on the way, and they are very tired and very sleepy, but at the same time they are very excited. It is the first time they have ever seen such a huge city, Istanbul. Indeed, they didn't come to Istanbul for making money. They escaped from their family's pressure, their family's disrespect. Ayla and Ali were married more than 2 years, but they have no children. And the family their parents are waiting children. Ali's cousin Ibrahim welcomed them at the bus terminal and take them to their new house that Ibrahim rent for them in a shanty house district of Istanbul. You know, shanty house in Turkish, we call them gecekondu, which means landed at night. When the authorities are sleeping, they construct their houses. And when Ayla saw the house, she thought it's too small, just 2 little rooms and open land for growing some vegetables maybe, or storing things. That's like their house in the village. But it is okay, she accepted. And Ali started to work at constructions, and Ayla started to work for cleaning houses, for middle-class houses, with Aunt Meryem. Meryem is a mid-aged woman. She is also from their neighborhood village. And she is a kind of guide, because Meryem came to Istanbul maybe 30 years ago. And Meryem likes Ayla very much because they have very similar experiences. Meryem also married when she was so young. And after 5 years without a baby, after visiting all midwives, all doctors in the region, Meryem's husband married again. It is not legal indeed, but it is normal traditionally. And after some years, when the house is full of second wives' children, Meryem felt unnecessary in the house. And when Meryem's sister asked her help from Istanbul, Meryem's husband allowed him to go. And Meryem came to Istanbul. Meryem also noticed some strange habits of Ayla at her home. At Ayla's home, all boxes are open, all doors are open, front door, back door, even their second-hand refrigerator door is always open. She's unnoting all knots. Even her hair or scarf knot is unnoted. But Meryem knows what's happening and didn't tell anything to Ayla. Meryem knows all those fairy tales, stories that she heard when she was a child at the village. The fairy tales are about Umay. Umay is the goddess and protector of family, protector of children, and especially pregnant women. But Umay has some requirements. If you want a baby, your house has to be clean, all notes should be unnoted, all doors should be open. So those fairy tales are shared. And one day, Ayla saw a pair of doves came to their place and bring some branches and dry leaves and put them on a box that Ali carried from a construction and make a kind of table. And he covered for a shadow 2 sticks and corrugated iron. He make a shadow. And these 2 doves make a little nest on the box. 2 days later, they found an egg on it. Ayla was very excited because it should be a sign. She thought it should be a sign of Umay, because Umay's symbol is a bird. Umay is a very big white bird. Umay's nest is in the air. Umay never touches to the earth. And he tried to make them comfortable, breed them with food, put them some food in front of them and water. Both Ali and Ayla are watching for the birds. But you know, Anatolian brown doves nests are so flimsy. And Ali tried to fix their nest, and when he tried to touch a branch, doves frightened and flew away, and the egg landed on the box and fell down and crashed. Ayla started to scream and cry, and their neighborhood, Mariam, heard those noises and came and see what happened there. She understood everything. And Mariam told Ali to hold Ayla tight. She will come within 2 hours, maybe 3. And Mariam ran into the street and take the first bus and go to the center of city to see one of her old friends from her village, from her childhood. Sefer Efendi is a doorkeeper, is a janitor of a building, and he's breeding pigeons at the roof of that building. Maybe he can give an egg to her. Mariam finds Sefer Efendi at the roof of that building and told everything, that Ayla's situation and everything, and begged for an egg, a living egg. Sefer Efendi said, okay, I can give you, but you know, this is my extra job. These pigeons are very precious. They're like puppies. You can pet them. You can breed with your hands. They are very precious. They have feathers on their feet. I want to give you, but Mariam said, okay, how much is it? I can pay by installments. Every month I can give you money. After begging half an hour, Sefer Efendi had to accept it and give his egg to Mariam. Mariam took it, wrapped it with her scarf, and ran into the street, find a carton box there in a garbage, and put the wrapped egg into it and take the bus, came to Ayla's and Ali's place. She found them there still crying, holding each other. And Mariam gently, kindly put the egg in their nest. And they all three start to wait for the doves. They wait. And night they fell asleep. With the first lights of the morning, Ayla saw those doves have already came, and one of them is sitting on an egg. And she was very happy. She said, okay, Umay forgave us. And 3 weeks later, they have a very strange pigeon, a white pigeon, in the middle of 2 brown doves. And Mariam started to breed that pigeon with her hands. Days and months passed. After almost 4 months, one Wednesday, when Mariam and Ayla usually go to cleaning, they met in front of Mariam's house door. Ayla said, Aunt Mariam, I feel sick, I feel uneasy for more than 2 weeks. I'm not good. Mariam looked at Ayla's eyes, and they understood that. They embraced each other and started to cry for joy. Ayla thought If it is a girl, her name will be Ayşe, Meryem Ayşe. If it is a boy, his name will be Ali.
Elements.
By chance and simple set of circumstances, we got these drums. The unity of their shape and the symbols, the diversity of them, inspired us to dedicate them to the elements. Earth. Water. Air. Fire. This is a song of a man who evokes these elements in order to cope with عشق برباد رفته or a lost love. میباره بارون ای خدا، میباره بارون، بر کوه سارون ای خدا، بر کوه سارون. یک نظر بر کوه کردم، کوه لرزیدن گرفت. یک نظر بر باد کردم، باد رقصیدن گرفت، رقصیدن گرفت، رقصیدن گرفت. یک نظر بر ابر کردم، ابر باریدن گرفت، ابر باریدن گرفت. یک نظر بر یار کردم، یار نالیدن گرفت. آتش گرفتم، آتش گرفتم، آتش گرفتم ای خدا، آتش گرفتم. ابر بهارون تو بگو بر کوه نباره، بر من بباره ای خدا، بر من بباره گلال زاره. بر من بباره ای خدا، بر من بباره ای خدا.
A song from Soko's story. Why Raven is black?
The Kwakiutl people in the northwest coast on the Pacific Ocean tell a myth that takes place in a time before the sun and the moon came into the world, when the world was dark and gloomy. And at that time, the creation god, Raven, was not a blackbird, but a brilliant red bird with shining red feathers. And he was flying in the sky over the land and the ocean. And he looked down at his own plumage and he thought, wow, I am the most beautiful thing there is in the whole world. There's nothing that is more beautiful than I am. Look at these beautiful red wings I have. And flying and boasting thus over the forest, he heard another bird down below. Ka-krakwa, ka-krakwa. Raven was calling Stellar's jay. Raven, this is not true what you're saying to yourself, this vanity. No, not at all. You are not the most beautiful thing there is in the world. And Raven said, how could this be? And Ka-krakwa, Stellar's jay said, Raven, I know of not one, but two things that are more beautiful than you are. Far to the north, deep in the forest, is the house of a Zunaqua, a selfish giant. And this Zunaqua sits on a box, and inside that box are two things more beautiful than you, a gold ball and a silver ball, Raven. Raven said, really? I must see these for myself. I will go. Thank you, he said to Stellar's jay, and he flew north over the forest. And before long, he saw a trail of smoke coming out of the woods. And as he descended upon that place in the forest, he saw the Zunaqua's house. And Raven thought, how was he going to get in unnoticed? And then he saw, not far from the house, the Zunaqa's lovely wife, and she was picking huckleberries. And she picked the huckleberries and put them in a basket to save for her husband. But Raven also noticed that when she found a particularly large huckleberry, she would just eat it for herself. And so Raven descended into the forest, alighted on a huckleberry bush, and transformed himself into a large huckleberry. And as the Zunaqa's wife continued picking, she came across the largest huckleberry she'd ever seen. Several months later, she became quite pregnant. And then she gave birth to a huge Zunaqa baby. Now, this baby was very, very loud. He cried from the moment that he was born. And the father, sitting on his box, at some point couldn't take it anymore. And he said, son, I just can't take her crying. Please tell me, what'll get you to stop? And the baby Zunaqa looked at his father and said, oh, Daddy, I don't have any toys to play with. So the father sent the mother out of the house to find a toy and bring it for their son. So the mother came back with some sticks that she'd found in the forest. And the baby Zunaqa played with the sticks and was happy for a time. And then he tossed away the sticks and started crying again. What's wrong, son? We gave you a toy. I want a different toy to play with, the baby said. I don't like sticks anymore. So the father sent the mother out into the forest to find a different toy, a new toy. And before long, she came back with some stones that she'd found. And the baby stopped crying and for a while was delighted, playing with the stones, stacking them, and oh! And then he started crying again. What's wrong, son? We gave you another toy, said the father. Oh, Daddy, I don't like rocks anymore. I want a different toy to play with. So the father sent the mother out to find a new toy, and she came back with leaves that he played with and then became dissatisfied with, and she came back with mud to play with, and he made a mess of everything she brought. And finally, there were no more toys that she could find for her son, and he was so miserable. What is it, son? Please tell me. We've tried everything we can. What more can we get you? And the baby said, Daddy, I want to play with the gold and silver ball in your box. How do you know about my gold and silver ball? He asked his son. And this is when the baby reserved that particular kind of scream that hits the nerves of every parent that children like him cultivate. Oh, he let out that scream, and the father couldn't take it any longer, and he said, okay. And he got up from the wooden cedar box and opened the lid. And the baby saw light shining out of the box. And the father reached inside and pulled out a second cedar box inside the first one. And this box had light inside it that was shining through the wood itself. He put this box down, and when he opened the lid, the rays of light that burst forth from it were so bright that the entire hut began to blaze up. And the father pulled out two balls, a gold ball and a silver ball. And the baby, who was Raven, knew that he had to have them because Stellar's was correct. Both of them were far more beautiful than he. So the father gave him the balls, and the baby began to play, rolling the balls and bouncing the balls, And for a great time, he was joyous. And then he started crying. Oh, son, why are you crying now? Oh, Daddy, he said, I rolled the silver ball out the door. Oh, the father sent the mother out the door to go retrieve the silver ball, and she brought it back, and then he played with it again. And before long, the baby started crying again. What's wrong now, son? Oh, Daddy, the gold ball bounced out the window. Oh, so the father crawled out the window and retrieved the gold ball. And then the baby started wailing so loud. Son, what now? What is it? Oh, Daddy, the silver ball rolled out the door and the gold ball bounced out the window again. Oh boy, so the mother went out the door to find the silver ball, and the father climbed out the window to find the gold ball. But as much as they looked in the forest, they couldn't find either one of them because the child had hid both of them under his armpits. And when his parents had left the house, he transformed back into the brilliant red raven and pulled them out from his armpits and gloated at his catch. But then he realized he had to leave the house, and he went for the door, and his mother was coming back in, and he went for the window, and his father was climbing back in through the window. And he had turned back into a bird, and they saw what he really was. How was he going to escape? Then he remembered the smoke hole in the ceiling. And Raven, with a great leap, flew up through the ceiling, through the smoke hole, and popped out on the top of the house. And he had both the gold and the silver ball, and he flew as high as he could toward the sky. And in his joy, he threw one of the balls up and caught it, and then threw the other ball up and caught that, and threw the first ball up even higher. And it stuck there. It wasn't coming down again. So then he took the second ball, and he threw it so hard that it knocked the first ball, and they both started moving there across the sky, but neither one of them came down. And they're still up there today as the sun and the moon. And through going through that smoke hole, that is how Raven became black.
Call and echo. Water of the desert.
In the deserts, there are vegetation areas called oases. They can be naturally formed or human-made. And it's always for the benefit of all the people who live in the desert. But But there was one oasis in Sahra Desert, which was not like that. And this oasis had a quite history. In the beginning, it's made by the effort of the Tuaregs. They carve the sand and the stone and they get the water to the surface. And then they planted some palm trees and they waited for the years. And after the palm trees created the first layer, then they can grow some apple trees. And after some time pass again, then they can grow millet and barley. And they did that. And one day, all of a sudden, a Persian man with his men with weapons came and invaded the oasis and get rid of all the apple trees and the barleys, just left the palm trees because it was essential and he knew it. And they planted some bushy trees that no one ever seen before. And this Persian man was a merchant. And when he was in Persia, he was going through the Central Asia, bringing goods back to the Persia. And in one of his trips, he found out that in one of the bushy tree, he can make a drug out of it. And this bush was only growing in the desert climate. And once they were combining it with Syrian root, it was making a drug and it was used for the recreation purposes. And he brought it back to the Persia because the Persia has deserts. And he started to do this business in Persia. And he made a good connection with the politics because they were using it for the relief of the burden of their job. But the king of the Persia didn't allow it, and the merchant was lucky enough to escape because he had a connection with a really strong person from the Ottoman Empire, and this was the Hayrettin Pasha. And Hayrettin Pasha gave him this oasis in the Sahra Desert so he can continue on this. But this man was a merchant. He wanted to earn money. So after a time, Hayrettin Pasha got rid of this man and he learned how to maintain the business, and he placed a really greedy family which were exiled from Algeria. And the only thing that this family needed was the feeling, the empowering, and it was enough for them to have an oasis. And the father of this family, although he was forcing people to call him Sultan. And they were treating the Tuaregs badly. They were forcing them to work in the oasis. And he has only one son. He gave him the name Al-Tahir, which means bird, because on the day he was born, the migrating birds visited the oasis. And this boy was quite different than his family. He wasn't greedy at all. He didn't want to feel empowered, and he was talking with the nomads and he was nice to them. And years after years, so-called Sultan was quite old and he was really so close to the death, and his brother-in-law suggested him to take the Altair to the merchandise trip so that he can learn the roads, and when he is on charge, he knows the business. And the Sultan accepted that. And they took Altair for the journey. They teach them how to find his way on the desert. In the desert, everything is moving and changing. It's really hard to find your way. But there is one way. They teach the Altair to count the really big sand mountains because they're not changing, they're always there. So they teach them to count 9, and then the city will be on the east. So on the 9th sand mountain, they said, let's do camp here. It's the night time. And in the morning, we will continue to the city. And when the Altair waked up, there was nobody around. He was alone. Because it was the trick of the brother-in-law, so that if he killed Altair, he can be in charge afterwards. And Altair was hopeless. He didn't know where to go. And he has no water, and he was thirsty, and he was hungry, and he was exhausted, and he didn't know where to go. He was ready to give up. But at that moment, he saw the migrating birds are flying. So he followed them. He followed them. And at some moment, it was like a silhouette, maybe it was a mirage, but there was an oasis. And he entered there and couldn't even able to talk. And the people on that oasis immediately recognized him from his skin color and the way he talked. They knew which oasis he was coming from. So they talked with each other. They said, let's torture him, let's kill him. What are we going to do with him? But at that moment, the oldest woman on the oasis said, no. We are going to welcome him like he is one of us. So they gave him water, they gave him food. And after a while he said, I have nothing to give for all of this. And they said, you don't have to. They teach them the real soul of an oasis. And the next day, they gave him a camel. They described the road. So he turned back to his oasis just before his father gave his last breath. So he was in charge. And he knew what he was going to change. And finally, the oasis was with its spirit again, the spirit of sharing.
Closing to open. That was the final moment.
Maybe we can now unmute ourselves and turn our cameras on. Because usually when we were in the gallery, all the performers used to get together and there is a bow part so that we salute the audience. But now we're in totally in electronic world. So together in a different way.
May I ask a question? To first Ali. Is Ali there?
Yes, Mete, I'm here.
Yes, Ali. You know, we Turkish people are familiar with Farsi words very much because of our classical literature is full of Farsi words. And I wonder, I distinguished some words like Yek Nazar, Hüda, but can you tell us some more words in English to understand the words of your song? Not translate, I mean, but can you say something about your song?
Sure, Mete, just to keep it simple and short, it really is about a man who looks at different elements and they kind of come alive for him. The wind dances, the rain pours, the lover's heart burns, and the wind, the wind dances, and the mountain begins to tremble. So those were the main words, and I added from a different poem about fire, how his heart is burning with fire, and he's asking the rain not to rain on the mountain, but to rain on his heart.
Yeah. That's very nice. Thank you. Thank you. And one more question to Catrina, if I have a right to ask two questions. Sure. Catrina, can you tell us something about your song?
It's a conversation.
Yeah, is there any word in some language or?
No, it's a completely made up language. It's not not a language that exists.
Good to know. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Craig, I have a question for you.
Sure.
So after you laid the stones, did your feelings change about the mountain?
I think there's a lot of work to be done, Holly. It's not as simple as that, but I felt that I'd done what I needed to do. And the interesting thing to me was that the woman who I was hiking on the mountain with, when the idea came to me, I hadn't seen for years. And on the way down the mountain, after placing the last stone, I saw her standing on the street, and I rolled down the window and I said, "It's done. We did it." And she said, "Who are you? It'd been that long." But to me, that was a sign that, okay, something was complete.
Okay. Well, I love Mount Tamalpais. Don't go there. I'm over in Oakland, so it's a couple of bridges journey. But there is a story, if I can tell this on Slobodan. Can I tell a story, Slobodan? Do I have your permission?
You can.
Okay. And it's a different feel from what you had. But we used to just go on drives, just go around wherever. And so I was driving, okay, because he doesn't. And he fell asleep during our drive. And it was just, he is someone who doesn't necessarily rest, in my opinion. So it was really heartwarming for me to just have him sleep throughout that journey. So Tamalpais does have a different feel at times. It's different for me, but I really appreciate your story.
Well, thank you for sharing your own. Yes, there's a special energy there.
Well, following year or some other time, I asked Hale, could we go to see the highest mountain? And she said, well, we were there, but you fell asleep.
I was curious to see who is performing from Turkey. Can you put up your hands, those of you in Turkey? 1, 2, 3. Because it's hard to keep track. I see. Oh yes, and then the others in America.
Two are here in the room with me, and
okay,
we are there.
It's quite a collaboration, isn't it? Wonderful.
And Jelena is in Belgrade, the Raven song with feathers. And where are you now? Where are you now?
Who? Me?
You.
Well, I'm in London.
Because one never knows.
Really? Oh, right. I don't get around that much. No, I'm at home. Yeah. Yes, it's I mean, maybe there's someone from another planet here. We don't know, do we?
Next time, inshallah.
Can tell us a story.
Not just for people to get a sense how far and from where people are.
I can't hear you. What?
It's just great for people to get a sense how far people have come to be with us.
Yeah.
And it's so great you came.
I have a question. My father, Mete, said it is a Turkish cultural myth that Umay and a bird means the bird is the Umay symbol of herself. Umay was a her, isn't she? Am I right?
Yeah, Umay. There are many legends. There are many stories, fairy tales about Umay. Mostly, it is illustrated by mid-aged women with white, long hair. But at the same time, it looks like in some illustrations, it is its image is a big white bird, like Simurg or Phoenix, maybe a legendary bird. And its nest is in the air. That's the imaginative side of the Umay.
So the red raven, I was curious that it was very look like a Simurg, as you said, and Simurg had the sun and the moon, and in the other end there was a child which was hoping to come. I didn't say correctly, but there was a woman which wants a child, and there was a man with Hitesh's story. There was a child which is in cage and wants to go.
Parrots are in Hitesh's story.
Yes, I know it's a parrot, but it's like a child to the owner always. And that's a good chain, I think. Interesting chain.
For a chain between the stories.
Yes.
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's also that mother knows when the child need a help. You know, it doesn't matter how old the child is. Mother is always a mother.
Yeah.
And there's another thing that all of us, we are in a golden cage until we fly our wings in the sky and we know how beautiful it is. So very, very thoughtful connection between all the story, Bhavi. Well done.
Good to see you all.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, iPad.
Hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you again. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.